still talking power. Nigeria facing multiple power grid collapses, blackouts across swaths of the country, and high diesel costs, to power generators as an alternative. So are renewables the solution? Solar, wind, other options are available in Nigeria and have been deployed in urban and rural areas to address the power issue. So joining us from Atlanta, Georgia is Trey Jarrard. He's the CEO of Renewvia Energy Corporation, which is a global solar developer. The company got a $10 million commitment in September from private equity firm Caritas Capital to support growth and expansion of solar energy across the United States and Africa. Trey, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you. I know it's pretty early in Atlanta there. So Nigeria is facing blackouts. Your company has provided solar energy to communities in Nigeria, in Bayelsa State, Akwa Ibom, Cross River. Is that where the solar energy conversation starts, in the small communities and remote villages before scaling to urban areas?
Yes, I believe so. It's a much more difficult challenge to solve because these areas are not only facing blackouts, they haven't ever been supplied any reliable and affordable power. So you've got thousands of communities the grid has never reached, and you have a very difficult time convincing private sector they need to take the risk to capitalize equipment in these areas and take the financial risk of no corporate entity guaranteeing any amount of energy offtake. So it's a more challenging power development scenario, but it is where the conversation should start because that's where the biggest and highest need is.
Great stuff. Now, we've got images of some of the areas in these different states where Renewvia has provided solar energy to small businesses and so on. But I wanted to ask you, if I want to make this practical for larger demand, if a sports bar or a nightclub owner in Lagos, for instance, the commercial capital of Nigeria, wants to switch to solar energy to power big screen TVs, arcade games, bowling alleys, deep freezers for food, disco lights, dance floors, and so on, what kind of costs are they looking at?
Yeah, well, as far as cost savings, as far as the cost per power is concerned right now, compared to an average avoided cost in Nigeria, it's about a 30 or 40% savings right off the bat. Now, with a lot of power is procured by your diesel genset. So with the diesel prices increasing the way they have been, it's even more substantial savings. But you can, if you look at the cost per power on a unit basis, it's very dramatic. I mean, it's immediately 30 to 50% savings from a distributed solar system compared to the average avoided cost of utility in a diesel genset.
So that is practical for a larger demand. It is practical to be able to offset these costs for larger power needs based on the savings that you're talking about.
Yeah, if you have surface area, if you have buildings that have roofs that are basically have unused area, then you can utilize that unmonetized space on your real estate and basically get your arms around a large percentage of power that you need to operate your business and not have it susceptible to utility rate hikes or rising diesel costs or both.
All right, now you got a $10 million commitment from a private equity firm, Caritas, I think, to expand across the U.S. and Africa. Do they expect a return from your deployment or your investment activity on the African continent? How's that supposed to work as far as the partnership between you two?
Yeah, they do. Caritas Capital is a little, in our opinion, more forward-thinking than a lot of private equity. They saw a very significant greenfield opportunity in Africa as opposed to some of the other areas of the world where power is such a challenge and because of the reliability and the resiliency in some areas. So they are looking for a conventional private equity return. I think that they have a more progressive outlook. They have probably a little bit more patience than some other private equity firms, but they're expecting a substantial return. They see a very interesting and large commercial opportunity.
And is that also, I guess, part of the because you're expanding in the U.S. and in Africa. So are the returns that they're expecting across both geographies, or is it more weighted on what you're doing in Africa because of the potential?
they looked at our platform and saw what we're doing in the U.S. and other parts of the world, including Africa, and gave us discretion to grow where we could realize the most significant growth. So it isn't targeted to any one area. I mean, they want to grow the platform as it exists today in all capacities. But they were extremely intrigued by the general opportunity in Africa in the off-grid segment and the on-grid, because there's so many people, in just the continent. If you look at the continent, in the complete continent, it's over 600 million people living without reliable and affordable power. So that in itself was intriguing to as it relates to commercial opportunity.
Great stuff. So what about job creation? What's the potential for off-grid solutions to create jobs in the communities here?
It's substantial. I mean, it's part of the overall development plan. So we utilize local labor whenever possible, from the very start of the development, from the transport of goods to the securing of goods to the installation and the ongoing operation. Whenever we can pull from local communities, we do, and we train several individuals and create several full-time jobs per grid within the community.
And there's a whole lot of talk of technology transfer for companies like yours that come to the, that set up these grids and also train people, as you've mentioned. So is there a multiplier effect there as far as jobs are concerned based on the training?
Yeah, we think so. We think that looking outward with these grids are very scalable. They grow with the individual as lifestyles change and appliances are added, and they grow with the community. So they're engineered in such a way that it doesn't require the management from an individual standpoint or a community. It doesn't require any upfront capital. And as the system grows and scales, it's gonna require more supplies and more full-time skilled labor. So we believe that there's a substantial multiplier effect.
Great stuff. I do want you to weigh in on this. Speaking of jobs, Nigeria is a heavily fossil fuel dependent nation. Much of Africa is. How do you have a clean energy transition conversation in an environment like this, where I guess the fossil fuel sector would push back, saying there might be job losses there? Where do you fall in? I mean, I would guess you're on this renewable side, but where do you fall in? Do you appreciate the pushback and the debate going on in the energy transition talk in Africa?
Sure. A lot of our focus is off-grid, so the conversation's easy there because there just isn't power. We're not competing against diesel. I mean, there might be some small individual petrol generators that are supplying power to, one or a few homes or a business, but that it's deploying power in areas that don't have it, where the grid is not going to be extended. This is the most economical solution, and it's not competing with fossil fuels.
COP27, well, COP26 was in Glasgow. COP27 is in Egypt. How encouraging is that for renewable energy advocates in Africa to have COP27 here on the continent?
It's exciting. I think that that's a rightful location for it. With the highest, with the most significant need that we could, and in many places of the world, I think that it was wise to bring it to the continent.
And do you think that with COP27 here and what the outcome could be, do you think that would lead, plus the private equity investment that you got, do you think that leads to more companies like yourselves coming to the African continent to provide these off-grid solutions?
I think so. I mean, it's a difficult scenario right now. We have to convince private sector to take this risk with us. Typically in power development, you have a credit-worthy off-taker, and they guarantee the power, and therefore the financiers have a very conventional underwriting process. What we're doing on the continent is we're basically saying we need to set up these scalable systems. There's tremendous impact we can make for communities that have never had reliable and affordable power, but we don't have corporation or utility with that you can underwrite. So this is going to be something that you're going to scale the risk and spread it out amongst thousands and thousands of individuals, but it doesn't fit perfectly in a little neat financing box. So, it's a difficult, it's a more challenging problem to solve, but that's one of the reasons why we're here. It's one of the things that has attracted us to this opportunity.
All right, and speaking of opportunity, what are your expansion plans for solar mini grids across Nigeria and I guess the rest of the continent?
It's aggressive. I mean, Nigeria's regulation structure is the most advantageous in Africa. I mean, the Nigerian regulators, the Rural Electrification Agency, supported by the World Bank, came together and said, what do we need to do to make this happen? We have to figure out how we can get the private sector comfortable to come make this a sustainable financial model, and they have. So we have very aggressive plans. We want to connect over 300,000 people in off-grid communities in Africa through 2025. That's our goal. We want to become the largest mini-grid developer on the continent in the next couple of years.
Excellent stuff. Trey Jarrard, CEO of Renewvia, thank you so much for joining us to talk about your expansion plans for off-grid solutions, power solutions across the African continent, beginning, of course, here in Nigeria. Appreciate your time.